listening to Owning the Buy Box, an IP Secure podcast. This is the podcast for agencies and brands who want to master Amazon, push out unauthorized competition, and take their business to the next level. You're about to hear a conversation that'll help you maximize your growth on Amazon by owning the Buy Box. Let's get into the show.
You spend a lot of time building a company culture that you can believe in and that is making a difference. And I guess clearly part of the rationale behind that is, you believe most people are good, want good things, and want to work with companies that feel that way too. So, getting that consumer experience right is probably really important, I would think.
It's very important. And interestingly enough, another pillar for Twisted X of how we're different and how we work and we run, we are not direct to consumer, which we are one of, not the only, but one of the very, very teeny few that are not direct to consumer. And that is a deliberate decision that we do not want to compete with our retailers. So this whole notion of, our job as the brand is to help with the awareness, the education for our end consumers on our owned properties, but also work with our plethora of retailers to help support them so they can sell. Because when they sell, when they win, we win, period. So we want them to win. We really want them to win. So we work with them on anything and everything from, social graphics to building out e-coms, like whatever they might need, we pitch in and help.
Was it always like that? Or is that part of what you brought with you when you kind of looked at the business? So that's been part of the culture from the beginning.
That's part of the culture from the beginning. And we found like a really interesting tipping point and a big decision for us was during COVID, right? When COVID hit, it was like the world shut down. Everybody that wasn't on, that didn't have an e-com presence was going e-com. And we made the big decision to still stay, with the model that we had. And during that time, we dug in deep and hard to help our retailers. So, but that's a belief again of our CEO Prasad that he wants to do good and do right. And he believes that if we were to be direct to consumer, that we would compete with our retailers, and we want our retailers to succeed. So we do everything to support them.
Well, it's interesting because he's taken parts of two different strategies and pulled them together. And on one hand said, we're going to have a distributed go-to-market strategy so we can get our products in as many hands, as many shelves, as many consumers' feet as possible. However, we kind of want the control and the quality consumer experience that really a direct-to-consumer environment is kind of considered possible. So it's interesting that as a business, you've chosen your go-to-market strategy, but you said, look, we can't just do that like everybody else. We need to bring these elements to it in force so that we get the benefit of the distributed model, but we keep our brand message on target and we keep our consumer experience as elevated and as fantastic as possible.
That's right. And that is the strategy. I will say that, our storytelling and the stories that we have to tell are broad and robust. The one thing that we don't lack stories. We have so many stories that for the challenge for me is it's the prioritization of the stories because, it's collection after collection, technology after technology. And we're doing so much that it is about, you're right, it's about getting the vast amount of content and storytelling told appropriately. And we tell our stories differently to our different brands and categories too. I'll give you a small example of that. When we talk about sustainability, and we don't use the word sustainability when we talk to our Western audience, because sustainability is like it's a term they're like, oh my God, I don't even want to talk about that. But that demographic, they live the earth, they work the earth, they generationally, that's how their families have lived. So for us, we came up with the whole notion of love of the land. And when we talk to our Western audience, we talk about the land and the importance of their job for the land, versus when we're talking about like the non-Western retailers and audiences, I'll just say kind of like more mainstream, higher fashion shopping experiences. You can say the word sustainability because it's a word that is part of the vocabulary that's acceptable. So we have different ways that we talk to our audiences and our retailers, because some of them care about sustainability as a word and a phrase, and some care about philanthropy, and some care about, that we're not direct to consumer. So we have a lot of messages and we cater them and tailor them appropriately.
Yeah. You need to know your audience.
Oh, yeah.
When you've got a diverse set of products for different demographics. So that makes a lot of sense. And, as you know, I mean, the show is about many things, and brand awareness is a really important part of we think what makes companies successful, especially in the e-commerce space. And marketplaces, whether it's Amazon or some other marketplace, are sort of interesting, right? Because they're these platforms that could deliver millions of customers. They, in some ways, are the virtual window into your brand because, for instance, 61% of all product searches online start on Amazon. So even if I may buy from a brick and mortar because I prefer that, or some other, or maybe direct from your website, which is pretty common, I'll probably go to Amazon first because I know it's going to have the cheapest price. I want to see what that is. I want to check out the brand.
Who is in your buy box? That's the key question, and the difference between sales growth and brand abuse and revenue loss. Monitoring your buy box is the key to brand protection success on Amazon. At IP Secure, our analytics will drive your behavior. It's not about taking down more sellers, removing more unauthorized listings. It's about knowing who's taking your revenue minute by minute, and then adjusting your response appropriately, taking action when necessary, and recapturing that revenue. Visit us today, ipsecure.com. Learn how.
I mean, how important are marketplaces for you think, in terms of maintaining that consumer experience that's so important?
They're key for us. Like each of the, it doesn't matter to me where the end consumer purchases, as long as they purchase our product, right? To me. So, and as best as we can to try to make the experience be the best experience for that end consumer. Not that I don't care where they go to get it, but I don't, because basically if they're going to get it from any of our retailers, that makes me super happy. But yeah, you talk specifically about Amazon. We're very, very careful. Our retailers, we treat them very, very carefully. We ensure that we've got consistent pricing, that, one is not discounting outside of the rules and regulations and timeframes. And we're very, very careful that, everyone has it's fair, no matter where that end consumer is shopping. But those marketplaces, absolutely, those are important for us because that's where the consumer is. And we have different retailers that play in different spaces.
Yeah. I mean, I think for you need to think about all of it, of course, and Amazon and marketplaces are sort of one facet of that. But I'll tell you, as time goes on, and marketplaces like Amazon become more dominant, a lot of the brands that we work with that were traditional brick and mortar companies growing up are finding that, they really do need to think about Amazon and other marketplaces almost like extensions of your website, to the extent that that's possible, right? I mean, I don't think you could ever have as much control on Amazon as you do of your own site, but just knowing when you think about the consumer experience the way that it is today, that those two places are somewhat indistinguishable for that consumer. And so I think in some ways, the relationship you have with your retailers is a way of doing brand protection. It is brand protection.
And brand protection is extraordinarily important to me, obviously. And yeah, there are rules and there are regulations, and that, yes, it is. We're strict with that, but we're strict with that because we value the brand and we value the experience of the brand for the end consumer. And by default, if you have brand protection and you're giving the experience to the end consumer, your retailer wins, period.
Right, exactly. I think you can take that sort of fairly strict approach, right, to what you would like to see happen, primarily because you have such a good relationship with your partners and your retailers. And it sounds like you're giving them a lot of tools as well and support. So you're not just saying to them, here's the policy, go follow it. What you're saying is, look, we have a policy because the goal is to get you as much sales and as many new customers as possible. And we're going to support you in being sort of compliant with our approach. That's the difference, because I think most brands, they don't anticipate the level of involvement that's required. And if they did do that, they'd probably do a lot less hand slapping and a whole lot more hugging, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah. We have, pretty much all of our assets, from product photography to lifestyle to anything in between, social, digital, hero images, whatever. We have that all available to our retailers. We have open. There's an extensive, we've got basically, the whole content platform for them. But yeah, that's a really big deal because we want them to look like us. We don't want it to look. We want, no matter where that end consumer touches us, that it looks the same. And you know what? Honestly, there's always work to be done there. There always is, because, we move fast too, so it's a bit for the retailers to kind of keep up with us too, because we have so much happening. But we try.
Well, and as you get bigger and more well known, there will be, sort of third parties that try to take advantage of that, which is just part of being successful.
Yeah. And, I mentioned kind of the COVID timeframe. During that time, we created all of those assets for social and digital, all assets for those retailers that we continue to populate and still offer to them now, because we found it to be a great resource for them during that time. And it continues to be something that they desire and want, which is we will deliver against that.
Like, to me, when you think about, again, just cultivating the consumer experience you want and the brand you want, it's not only what they're selling, but it's who's selling it, right? Because I could buy your product from a retailer, but if my experience isn't great or my delivery isn't great or whatever it might be, that's something we want to prevent. And so who is selling it is probably as important as what they're selling.
And that's been a focus of Twisted X Global Brands, is distribution, an expansion of distribution. Because I'll say, it's one of those that the brand itself, so Twisted X and Twisted X Work, which are our primary brands, those two have grown organically, exponentially since I arrived at Twisted X 3.5 years ago. And, it's a matter of the demand is there. So, and we're finding that season over season, that's a consistent trend for us. We've had growth, year-over-year growth since my CEO, Prasad, arrived. So, and he pivoted company out of bankruptcy in 6 months, and then year over year. I mean, he really is a very brilliant businessman.
Wow. It's a great story. I mean, it's like I kind of feel like the company came out of nowhere, and now all of a sudden you're everywhere.
Hey, that's what we want. I'm like, yes, that's the goal.
Yeah, it's a good story and it's a great product. People love it. I was just kind of looking it up and looking at reviews of people, talking about the product. And you really seem to know your audience, like from your website to your messaging to the way that you position the product. And you're not selling basketball sneakers here, right? With these massive sort of addressable markets. You are targeting a fairly specific group of people who need this type of footwear or want this kind of footwear. You seem to just know what they're thinking.
We try. That was a really big goal. I mean, that's, a marketer's, I guess, that's what you should do. And that, when I arrived there, like I said, there was nothing. There was next to nothing. And me and my team have spent a great deal of effort and time honing in on each of the brands and our audiences. And when we talk about Twisted X versus Black Star versus licensed brand Wrangler footwear, right? You've got to get in the mindset of when we're talking about Black Star, it's a totally different conversation than we're talking about Twisted X. It's a different demographic. It's a different goal. And we try very, very, very hard to get in the mindset of the brand that we're working on at that moment. Because they're different and they have different growth, efforts, and they have different marketing efforts. And so that's a big, big deal for us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been what feels like a long journey in a fairly short period of time.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the company has been around, I think, 10 years. Is that right?
So founded in 2005. And then Prasad CEO came on board 2009. And that's really when everything completely, it just pivoted and changed. And then, the exponential growth.
So going forward, what do you think the future looks like for Twisted X?
We're not going to stop innovating. We're not going to stop collaborating. We're not going to stop making shoes. It's more, we always have, in kind of, next and future line releases, we've got new stuff queuing up all the time. So,
but you're always going to stay true to footwear. You don't think you'll venture outside of footwear?
No, footwear is what we do. And it's funny, like people ask that question to Prasad all the time. And he's like, nope, we're going to do what we know. He's like, I don't know other things. I know footwear. So we stay core to footwear. And then we just expand within kind of our footwear like area of focus through licensing agreements and collections and technologies. And there's plenty of places to grow, plenty of places.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a really well-run company. I think I agree with that philosophy of, staying true to what you do well and knowing, part of, I think, planning out a great future is sort of looking at where you've been and where you've come from and how you've gotten to where you are and not losing sight of that, I think is really important. And it sounds like that's a big part of the DNA, of the business. It's really exciting. So I don't want to keep you forever, Tricia, because I feel like I could talk to you forever about this stuff. This has been really, really great. I mean, I think it's an exciting company. I think that you clearly have developed an approach to interacting with your customers that really resonates. And whether you're doing that on your website, in a brick and mortar store, on Amazon, wherever you're doing that, the discipline I think that you all are bringing to the market is going to really help the business continue to grow quite quickly. And so I'm excited to see where Twisted X goes, and hopefully in the future you'll kind of come back periodically and update us on what's going on.
Oh, I'd love to come back. This is so fun. This is just, I love having convos about, growth, and it's just cool. It's fun. And it's fun to be at, a brand that's that's doing cool stuff, because gosh, it just makes my job even more exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody.
They got to keep me going, or I'll be like, come on, we got to do more. But yeah, they keep me busy.
Great. Well, thanks for being here, Tricia. We really appreciate it. And we'll hope to talk to you soon. I'm Dave Cooper. This is Owning the Buy Box. You can find us on Google, Spotify, Amazon, everywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. Now, if you want to reach out to Tricia, I'm not going to volunteer her contact information, but I know you can definitely find her on LinkedIn. Is a great place. And I'm sure she wouldn't mind hearing from anybody that has any questions or thoughts. Or you could always go to Twisted X's website and check it out. It's very cool. It's a great company, and I highly recommend everybody take a look at their approach, because it's one that works. Thanks, Tricia.
Thanks, Dave.
You've been listening to Owning the Buy Box, a show from IP Secure. Never miss an episode by subscribing to the show in your favorite podcast player. Please give us a rating, leave a comment, and share episodes that you love. That helps us keep delivering you the tools you need to sharpen your competitive edge and ensure your authorized sellers always own the buy box. We'll see you next time.